So welcome to Grace Health and Fitness, and welcome to our little series of interviews with women who either work in women's health or have an interest in women's health, and just to be honest, other women. We just want to share a little bit about what's available locally and just information and motivation and inspiration for you all for your health and well-being as a woman. So today we have Annie with us from Yogabellies East Kilbride, and she is going to just tell us a little bit about who she is and what she does, and we get to ask her a few questions. And afterwards, if there's other questions or you want to get in touch with her, then we can give you her details to do that as well. And even if you're not local to East Kilbride, there might still be some information for you that's relevant. And I'm sure, as we all are just now, we're all working online anyway, so it doesn't matter if you're not local just now. So Annie, welcome.
Hello.
Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of how you ended up doing what you do now?
Absolutely. So my name is Annie, obviously, as Sarah just said. So I am a yoga teacher, but I only teach women. So my interest is women's health. It always has been. So I've been teaching in East Kilbride for about 8 years now, and I have a little place called the Luna Centre, which obviously we haven't seen much of this year, but anyway, where I teach my classes basically. So my classes are, like I say, all through Women's Life course. So a lot of women tend to start with my pregnancy yoga classes, like birth preparation. It's a good into yoga. A lot of people, like about 80% of our clients, my clients in pregnancy, have never tried yoga before, because I think people are a bit like, oh, I can't touch my toes, which is my bugbear, because it's not about touching your toes. But then that kind of leads them in, and then we do postnatal and then yoga for women, in two different styles of classes for women. So we would call it like a yin style and a yang style. So yin being much slower, more flowing, more really focusing on the menstrual cycle, that class. And then one that's more yang, as in it builds quite a heat in the body, and it's much more focused on like core strength and everything like that. So I've been doing that about 8 years, but then in recent years, maybe about the past 2 years, I've really started to get very interested in the links between yoga and fertility. So when a woman is trying to conceive, more often when they're struggling to conceive, I work with them, but I definitely work with women who are kind of thinking about trying to conceive. I just started to get such an interest in that. So I developed a program called like a fertility yoga program that women come on to. So it isn't just yoga, you know, it's yoga that helps with menstrual health and help with trying to conceive, but also different themes around conception, and if you're on a more difficult path with that, providing support to these women. So that's probably where my passions have kind of veered into at the moment. I just love it. But it's all the kind of overarching theme of everything I do is about women and their menstrual health, and really embracing menstruation and embracing their cycle, which is so under kind of talked about, and there's so much women can harness and not see it as a curse, and harness that. So, kind of opening a lot of women's eyes to menstrual health and things like that. So that is what I do. Does that sum it up?
And tell me, how did you, if you said you started Yogabellies, working with Yogabellies 8 years ago, and it's a kind of franchise, isn't it? What were you doing before that? What made you change over?
Completely different. So I was very commercial. I worked, I did psychology at uni, and then I've got a master's in psychology, and I actually started a PhD in psychology, and I've always loved psychology, and I've always loved that, but the PhD wasn't quite for me. So then I completely veered and went into much more of a commercial thing. So I used to actually I was a clothing buyer for Tesco. So worked very, very commercial. Then I moved into marketing for a whiskey company, and then so I always had really quite high stress jobs, which I want to talk about later. Stress and the impact of stress. And then, then it really was got married and wanted to have kids, and hit a bit of a roadblock there, and had, like a lot of women, you kind of, the first half of your life, or in your 20s and everything, you don't pay any attention to menstruation and menstrual health at all. You probably do live more high stress, and then when you kind of, the moment in your life when you need your good menstrual health to conceive, you start to focus on it, and you're like, this is bizarre. So what happened for us is it took longer for us to conceive, and we were into like the 18 months, 2 year type things. Then I had this like awakening, and I started going into I've always done yoga, but really getting into it. And acupuncture was the other thing that I turned to, and really getting into acupuncture and yoga. There was this tangible, like you could see this difference in my menstruation. Like it was like night and day. So I was like, there's something in this can't just be. So focusing on reducing stress, focusing on yoga, and getting weekly acupuncture. Within 2 months I was pregnant, 2 months after waiting 2 years. So that for me was a big awakening. And I just really started to get into much more holistic ways of living life. And then that's when I was then I realised I didn't want, so I had my first baby, Gabriel, and then I didn't want to go back to commercial roles. Nothing against people who work in commercial roles. I've got a husband who excels at it. He doesn't seem to pick up on the same levels of stress I did. So then that's where I kind of found, that's when I started my business. So, and then, the fertility journey continued for us. Like, we had a really tough time. I always knew I had 3 children to come to me. I just always believed that. So I had my second child, like, pretty quickly. There's only 17 months between the 2 boys. And then that's where more struggles happened, when I had like 3 miscarriages in a year. Just really kind of, again, fertility struggles, but it was always yoga that helped me. It always was. It was like, it's always been my crutch. So then we had Clodagh. So there's 3 years between Malachi and Clodagh. So, and I just love working around the kids and doing yoga, and they pick up, and they I mean, yourself, kids pick up on living well and copying your exercise, and so
I was, when you're saying that, we were quite similar, that we had Daniel and Esther really close together, and then I think stress was a big factor before we had Rebecca, because I was the same. I spent maybe 12 months or so with kind of early miscarriage, and I think my body was actually undernourished. I mean, you're going to maybe share a wee bit, but I think undernourished and stressed. And I think
100% believe that. My energies were too depleted. I think having 2 kids 17 months apart, it's fine, but I don't think I was busy building the business as well, and I think I was very, like you say, undernourished, depleted in energy, and too stressed as well. So so that's what kind of led me to develop the fertility program. I mean, I don't want me to talk a wee bit. So I mean, I love yoga. I love holistic health, but I also, there's a big part, and I believe in lots of things about energy in the body and the chakras and things that aren't very Western at all. I do look to Eastern medicine for a lot of things. I really do, but I also love a bit of science, and I love things robustly backed up in science. So when I started reading about the links between yoga and fertility, I mean, there's awesome studies out there. There's a woman who I just think this woman's amazing, and I've totally forgotten her name. No, I haven't. Alice Domar, her name is, and she runs, she's a Harvard kind of doctor, and she runs like this Harvard Medical Center. And she really, obviously she's a scientist at her heart, but she loves yoga and believes in it as well. And she's run like really good scientific studies where, like, she would run studies where she would have like women who are going through like IVF. She would have them into a control group where they just went through their IVF. Then she put the other half in a control group where they did weekly yoga sessions and mindfulness sessions. And I think the rate of conception for the women in the yoga group was like 3 times the rate of the women who were in the control group. So she was like, that's like really, really something. So she's got tons of research in it, and I started reading that, and again it's like a penny drop. You think, God, there's something in this. There really is. Massive links to stress, like you've just said about early miscarriage and things. Absolutely massive like risks. I think the stress word is banded about loads. Oh, I'm stressed, but actually to understand what's going on in women's bodies just now with stress, I just don't think people fully appreciate the effect on your body. I mean, I'm always harping on to clients about, you know, everyone talks about fight or flight, everyone knows what fight or flight is, and the fight or flight mechanism in our body is actually very good. It's brilliant that it's in us, because it gets you out of danger, pumps your body with adrenaline, pumps your body with stress hormones, and you can deal with, you know, stress. But it was only ever meant to be very, very, very short-lived, because your blood's rushing to your extremities, your arms and legs, so you can run, okay, which you know. But where else in your body's been depleted when that's happened? Well, your womb space. So that blood that should be nourishing your ovaries, your endocrine glands, your womb space is depleted. But what's happening now is we're living in that chronically, absolutely, like chronically. So the switch is massive, and we're like all our pelvic organs, our adrenal glands, everything's just so undernourished, and it really does affect your menstrual health. And in terms of fertility, well, it's massive, because you need that oxygen-rich blood getting in. You need to be in the other side of the nervous system, the rest and digest, and we're just not. And then this year, of course, with what's happened over the past year, talking about threats, so evolutionary speaking, it would have been a saber-toothed tiger, but now there's this threat out there that we've all had to live with, and the effect of it is just, we don't even know the full effect of it yet. It's crazy. So
even at other, like, I've just recently done a wee presentation on the menopause, and again, stress is one of the massive, you know, areas when it comes to how women will experience their menopause. You know, and again, obviously, it's completely to do with those hormones that your body needs to produce, whether it's for our menstrual cycle, for you know, fertilization, and then, you know, holding on to an egg, or whether that's whether it's for going through the menopause, you know, and the changes there. If your body's, you know, stressed and depleted of certain, you know, the ability to create the hormones that you need, then you know, it's not good for our cycle.
And unfortunately, you, like, women who are trying to conceive and struggling with it, unfortunately, knowing that making you stressed isn't the best thing is a vicious cycle, because then you go, but I'm stressed because I'm stressed that I can't. And it's a guilt thing as well with women, like a real guilt of, oh, I caused that because I was so stressed, you know. And so even just the act of doing yoga, or doing like what you do, really good exercise programs, the act of doing it really helps women get out of that cycle, because you're actively doing something to help yourself, you know.
And would you say breathing? I was going to just ask about breathing, sorry. Is breathing a part of it, would you say, when it comes to that as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I teach loads of different breathing techniques through the kind of course. But I think until you, like, I always say this in class, until you actually stop and realise that you can direct the breath to different parts of your body, you realise you've been cutting about all week breathing up here, like that. So but it's just literally sending the breath down into the womb space, soft belly breathing, even just literally the act of placing your hands on your belly and actually feeling the hands rise and fall. You realise, God, I've not breathed as deep as that all week, because you've been just working at your desk. And so there's we do lots of different breathing techniques to help nourish, and we do adapt. So the key part of it is adapting the yoga according to where you are in the menstrual cycle. So this is another thing I teach all my clients. Well, not pregnancy, because you don't really need to worry about that, but so my women's classes, I give them adaptations and actually mention, like, if you're on your period, if you're in the first half of your cycle or you're in the second half of your cycle, because
Yeah.
what your body needs at all those different times is very,
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because women mostly, you're in jobs where you're not trying to compete with men, but you're working alongside men.
Yeah.
So you feel like you need to go at the same pace all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and you use menstruation as an excuse, that's a weakness.
Yeah.
That couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, that is the patriarchy that have led us to believe that.
Yeah.
The patriarchy is why we think it's a curse, and it's why we think it is a weakness.
Yeah.
But actually, if you actively tap into each stage of your menstrual cycle and adapt your life accordingly, your creativity will improve, your productivity will improve. There's so much you can gain from embracing the different parts and adapting according to it, you know. I mean, it's only in recent years that the World Health Organization actually measures menstrual health as one of the key indicators of health. So they would you would look at blood pressure, pulse, temperature. But for women, we've got another indicator that has never been used until now.
Yeah.
So it's quite exciting that people are waking up to it and, you know, realizing it. So
I
just love it.
Yeah, I was watching a presentation about menstrual cycle actually a couple of weeks ago just for myself, and they were talking about exercise, you know, and again, you're saying with productivity at work, and it's the same with exercise. There's different weeks in your month that you will be able to go full out with strength training, and that's when you really need to blast your workouts if you want to. And then there's another week in the month where it's like, no, it's about rest and recovery, and
absolutely.
you know, and I do think we're not in tune, you know, and I know I'm guilty, you know, I tend to look at a lot of the postnatal type stuff, and I'm not, like you say, in your 20s and 30s, whatever, you're not really thinking about what your month looks like, you know, and you're a victim almost to the sort of symptoms you experience, aren't you, rather than sort of being in control of it.
But you know, I can honestly say it's probably only been in the past few years that I actually love having my period now. I love it. I look forward to it. I love it because it is my time. I don't cook for my family I don't do it. Rory is very supportive of this after he's obviously just like, what's she talking about now? But he does embrace. So I don't clean the house. I don't cook for the kids. I try not to work. Sometimes I have to. But I mean, I've been very lucky with the way my periods fall in that core class that I was talking about at the very beginning. But I taught it once on day one of my period and it nearly killed me. But it's all about, but there's also a kind of emotional and spiritual part of it as well. It is a time to reflect. It's a time to release things that do not serve you. So I love living this 20. I mean, I readapt my life every 28 days. On the day of when I'm on my period, it's that you're actively releasing energy back down, and you can use that to release things that don't serve you. And then when you emerge from that, you know, you start to feel great, like you say. Your goals are starting to really click into place. And then obviously around ovulation, you're like on top of the world, and then it starts to wane down. But there's scientific studies that show, so like for example, in the first, so after you've finished bleeding and you're leading up to ovulation, your immune system is actively building at that point. So it's at its highest, your immune system's high, which says when you're on your period, you cannot be going out and driving yourself hard because you're going to get sick, because your immune system is not doing well at that point. So it's about rest, it's about self-care, it's about recuperation. Because you'll do yourself harm if you don't. You'll end up sicker, you'll end up, you know, I mean, what was I reading? So there's actual stuff on the hemispheres of your brain that are active at different types. So what is it? I think in the luteal stage, so after estrogen peaks around ovulation, you're into the luteal stage, and it was so you start getting into the premenstrual phase, don't you? And this is what everyone talks about, like, oh, she's premenstrual, right? I don't buy that. Okay, I mean, yes, I believe if you don't look after yourself in terms of when you're on your bleed days and look after yourself, you are going to have heightened PMS, right?
Mm-hmm.
But actually in the premenstrual phase, what is it? The right side of the right hemisphere of your brain's more active. So that's your creativity. That's when you get all your good ideas, when you're in that premenstrual phase and your energy's starting to go. In the first half, it's your left, and it's that's like the rational, logical side. It's your more masculine part of your cycle. But embracing that creativity, that's when you get all your good ideas. That's when you're creative. That's when all the creative juices are flowing. And that is science. That is right there,
It's what the hormones are doing to us.
It's what the hormones are doing to you. And if you tap into that, then it opens up so much for you, instead of men are like that, which is fine. And I look at my husband and I think, God, nothing phases you. You're just like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like in terms of like the PMS thing that we've all been, the patriarchy's got us as weak for, to me, unless you, like, if you don't look after yourself, you're going to get tougher PMS. But in terms of, you get revelations when you're PMS. Like I say this to my clients, I'm like, just because, if you get angry about something and something's out of, and you've got PMS, sometimes it could just be that you now want to address it. You've seen it for what it is and you want to address it. Do you know?
What would be I was just going to say, what would be your thoughts on kind of hormonal, like your contraceptives, the pill and things like that? How does that affect things? Because it's not an area.
That's another thing I'm passionate about. I mean, the patriarchy and male-dominated Western medicine haven't given us enough options for contraception. They haven't. I don't like hormonal contraception, but I know we need contraception. So personally, I don't use hormonal contraception. I use other forms of contraception because it's the side effects. So I mean, if you've seen these like wee videos where they go out and they have a side effects of being on hormonal contraception and the things that are associated with, and they show them to men and say, if there was a drug that you needed in your life and these are the side effects, would you take them? And they're all going, no way, I wouldn't take that. They're huge drugs to be putting in our bodies, and they're huge drugs for teenagers to be on and in your 20s. And we've all done it. I mean, I did it in my 20s, but they're not great. The side effects are massive. Like the incidence of depression on them are massive. I mean, risks of deep vein thrombosis. I mean, they're huge drugs to be putting in, and they mask a lot in the body as well. So
I think that would be the kind of discussion that I've had recently about it. It's that kind of changing of the kind of natural rhythm, and then you don't know if depending on what you're on, obviously, but you don't know when your menstruation's going to be, you don't know what your cycle's like, you don't therefore know what levels of hormones are there and that should be there, because it's masking what's going on inside.
I don't blame people for taking them at all. You have to find what works for you, because but it's my belief that hopefully in 10-20 years time there's better options for us out there, because
so what, I mean, if someone is watching this then and they wanted to they sort of thought, I'm interested in this and I think it might be something for me, what do they do? And what do you do to them?
I think if you're not actively trying to conceive, but you just think, I'd love to start learning about harnessing my menstrual cycle and tapping into it, then my Luna classes, where we sort of, the way we do it is we can't all be on the same cycle at the same time, although that often happens. That's a scientific fact. That's a really good way of starting to tap into it. So what we use is the cycles of the moon. So like you can see, right? So back in when women used to live in small little tribes, they used to bleed together. So they used to, all the women of childbearing age used to all bleed at the same time, and they would go off into what was called a red tent. So all the women would go into this red tent and bleed, look after each other, brush each other's hair, massage each other's hands, bliss. and then they would re-emerge, right? So, but it tended to be with the moon because they didn't have technology, street lights,
Yeah.
you know, the light of the moon was what kind of guided them. So they would ovulate around the full moon when energies are higher. I mean, that's a fact as well. The full moon does have effect on like kids, people in nursing homes, hospital admission, more people give birth, you know, that kind of thing. So they would ovulate around there, and then when you can't see the moon and it's the dark side of the moon, that's when they would bleed. So in my classes, we kind of tap into that, and we just kind of harness the moon and just kind of stick. But what we do is we then learn how to adapt our yoga practice when you're at different stages. We do like setting intentions for the 28 days, and we start to work with that. So that would probably be the class that would be best if you want to learn more about that and adapting your yoga practice throughout your cycle.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay. And then the fertility classes, are you running those online just now?
Yeah, so I'm running them online, and to be honest, after COVID's over and we can get back to the studio, I'm just going to keep them online because women from all over join me now. Like I've got a woman from Seattle that joins me and stuff.
Wow.
But it is the most supportive group of women you'll ever, I mean, they're just incredible because they understand. So, but it's women that are from, if they've just been trying for a wee while, it's women who, or maybe they've been trying and maybe they know they've got underlying menstrual issues that, and then it's women who've been trying for a long time, but they're really, really supportive, and the support and the chat is one of the bigger parts. So yeah, they're online on a Wednesday night, and I've just had to put another one on a Saturday morning, so I taught one this morning as well. But it works very well, as you know, it works really well online.
So, and do you do yoga together then, and there's obviously a bit of chat as well?
We do our chat at the start, find out how everyone's been, find out what everyone is on their menstrual cycle and what's going on, because we do have to make adaptations as well if you are going through like treatment. So if you're on drugs for that, it kind of side effects, and you'll maybe want to make adaptations. If you are actively going through IVF, I mean, that's another, it's massive, the effect. I mean, the drugs and the stress. I mean, there was studies that showed that the stress women who are going through IVF are under is like, I can't remember how many times higher, 2 or 3 times higher than women who have a terminal illness.
Yeah.
So women who are suffering from terminal illness, that's the level of stress these women are under. So we do the chat, then we do a breathing technique specific to fertility, and there's usually a wee theme around the class. So I'll maybe talk to them around stress or nutrition. That's another big thing. I know you're massively into as well. That's massive for fertility. So talk around a wee theme, and then we'll do our breathing, our yoga, and then a meditation, a relaxation at the end. So
Great. So tell me what's your favourite part of your job then, Annie?
Helping women, like the feedback from women who have actively found it helping their lives. I mean, it's so funny, right? Because every time I teach a class type, I go, that's my favourite one. No, that's my favourite class. And then I'll teach it, and then I'll teach the next class and I go, no, I think I like that. So just helping women and supporting them and building them up, that's what I love. Hearing about birth stories who, they go, oh my God, I just couldn't have done it without your breathing techniques and your mindset. I had your voice in my head all the way through labour. And then getting a phone call with a lady who's finally got pregnant and she's convinced it was the classes, all of that.
And I think it's so good. I just think it's like, I'm trying to do these interviews because I do think, women need to know that there's stuff out there, there's support and there's people who want to hear their story. I think a lot of people will go maybe in a more medical route, but it doesn't have the time or ability to look at a holistic picture.
Exactly.
And I think there are
things like IVF and stuff. If that's the way you have to go, then that's fine. But you need, it's like we were just talking about gardening, weren't we, before we started talking about this? And you wouldn't just shove seeds into a piece of ground that you've not nourished and you've not. And it's exactly the same with fertility, exactly the same. Like if you know down the road in the next 6 months you're going to have to go through IVF, do get your body in the best possible condition. It's like fertile soil, isn't it? Get it ready for hopefully this little baby, you know. So yeah, definitely holistic health is so important, isn't it?
Yeah,
I know you
yeah.
know that.
Great. Well, my final question that I've been asking people is, if you had one thing to say to women, one message to give to any women listening, whatever stage, you know, I've got women who might be at the stage we're talking about today, I've got women who might be post-menopause, you know, but if you had a wee message just to give to anyone listening, what would it be?
Do you know, I think it's just be proud of being a woman and believe in yourself as a woman. I know I've harped on about the patriarchy. I could do it all day, and I do, and I'm not even embarrassed about it anymore. My husband has to listen to me talk about it, and he's the same. Like, Rudy's a feminist because, you know, so there's so many aspects of our lives that have been like trampled down by this. So be proud of being a woman and harness being a woman, because you know, there's so much that we can do, you know. So like with birthing, even with birthing, we've been led to believe so many falsehoods about it. So don't listen to the patriarchy and just embrace being a woman. That's what I would say.
Yeah, great. And is there anything else that you want to say, or?
I think I've harped on enough.
No,
just really watch your stress levels, I think, is key thing. Whatever you choose to do, you know, whether it is Pilates, whether it's like HIIT sessions, whether it's yoga, just if that's what helps you harness your stress levels, then go for it. Do you know what I mean? It's all, I think, right now for us and for your health, the biggest thing you can do for your health is stress reduction. So however you get that, then do that, you know.
We've been doing it with our membership just now. It's 40 days of self-care. So I think we're on day maybe 6 or something just now. So we're going to spend March just doing something every day. Just a little task that's just totally focused on self-care, from things that are just breathing exercises, but also kind of like decluttering type exercises, things that just, you know, just allow us a wee bit of space. So I'm glad you
That's something that you can do different stages of the menstrual cycle as well. Like you will be, there'll be urges to declutter and things. Let me think when it would be. Coming in your premenstrual phase, like get everything decluttered, get yourself, so that when you're ready to hit your next 28 days, you're ready for your next goal setting for the next 28 days. You know?
No, it's fascinating. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Lovely to talk to you.
I'll be sharing this with the girls on Facebook, so you'll be able to see it, and you can put your details below, and I'll point people in the right direction.
If MD's got a question for me, then I'm happy to answer. Absolutely no problem at all. So I'll probably see your post, and even if they just comment under it, I can answer any questions. All right.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for listening, everybody, as well.
Bye.
Bye.